Welcome everybody back to the show. I'm your host, Iyobosa Ama, and on today's topic, we're going to be talking about something that is near and dear to my heart. You guys know that I love Nigeria with all my heart, right? And the one thing I love about us Nigerians is no matter where our children are birthed, so whether here or abroad, so whether back home or abroad, we always give our children authentic native names. In short, a lot of if I just do a quick scan across my friends' base, a lot of their children bear the native names. So whether it's Yoruba, Bini, Igbo, Tiv, Hausa, doesn't matter where you're from, they bear the native names and they hardly have English names. I love this about our culture. And it's something that we're really proud of. We can tell. Paul then, when I was back in university, during the first day of class and the professor is going through a roll call, one could almost always tell when a Nigerian student is next on the roll to be called. So I'm just going to give you an example. So we're just doing the roll call. Peter Smith, here. Andrea Andrews, here. Ayobo, how do we say this? Ayobosa Ev? And then I almost have to bail the teacher out. Yobosa here. It always results in a hilarious situation every single time. But that's us Nigerians in all our glory. But suffice to say that by the end of the semester, both the professors and all our American classmates definitely will know how to pronounce our names. It's just the way it is. But wait though. The one way they concern me now, so it's good when we do that. But the one way we they carry last. You know how they say Nigerian will carry last? But in this case, we they carry last though. After we give our children them all these correct authentic names, we know they follow up with the language. So we have children who step out, for example, Iyobosa. And the minute on Benin, and the minute we step out, maybe another Benin, uncle or auntie, hey, boy, henna, and then I'm lost. It's like we don't even know how to speak the language. I mean, this one not good, or this kind of trend not good at all. How we get here? To help us navigate this issue, I'm going to be speaking with an award-winning author. Her inspirational verses have been featured on Oprah magazine 5 times. So here in the studio is Nkem DenChukwu. Welcome to the studio and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. If you ask my friends, I always bring it up every time. I hear them speak English to the children. So to help us navigate this, I'm going to be reading an excerpt from your book, Travel Echoes, to help us segue into the topic. And I quote, "The disappointing thing these days is that many African-born children and those born outside of Africa are not properly educated in their native tongues. This is a trend and may very well be the start of the terrible things to come. The extinction of the Igbo way of life, her customs and traditions." So here you talk about the Igbo way of life, but we may as well, apply it to other ways of life. So for example, the Bini way of life, the Yoruba way of life, the Hausa way of life, but we get the gist. So how did we get here? How did we get to this trend?
I think, from my opinion, from my experience, and from listening to other people's stories, it's all about the mindset. Everything basically boils down to mindset. So for instance, Nigerians born and being raised in Nigeria, why do they choose to not teach their children their native language? It's all about choices. So for you to make a choice, it's your mindset. I have friends in Nigeria, the kids who were born and raised in Lagos, Igbos, were born and raised in Lagos. Rather than teaching them the Igbo language, they learn Yoruba, because Yoruba is the main language in Lagos. Same thing applies to Nigerians in the US or in the UK. Especially, I can only talk about Nigerians in the US because I live here. So a lot of Nigerians in the US, they come from Nigeria. They move to America, start having kids, start raising their kids in America. And because they personally chose to become what they are not, it's okay to embrace the American culture. I mean, you go to Rome, you behave like Romans. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing wrong with embracing another culture. The problem And the disappointment is when you actually choose to forget where you're from. So when you have that mindset and you get comfortable with that mindset and action, and you eventually have kids, what do you think will happen? You will continue the same trend. It becomes the tradition. It becomes how you raise your kids. I mean, childhood orientation is everything for a child. So I have 4 kids. I speak Igbo to them. They're all born and raised in Houston. But their dad never spoke Igbo to them, even though he's not like from my side of Igbo. But at least he speaks Igbo. His dialect is completely different from mine. But he never, my oldest is 20, my youngest is 15. And he never, ever, till today, said one word to them in Igbo.
So does he speak Igbo? I mean, does he understand the language?
He speaks and understands the language, his own dialect.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but at least teach your kids your own dialect.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying that the bottom line we got to this, or the main bane of this problem, is from us parents? Is it from the parents?
It has to be from the parents. How does a child learn how to curse? If, say, for instance, in a household, a mom or dad is always using like F words, using some obscene language, and the child is always there. Or you're picking your nose and you're telling the child, don't pick your nose.
Right.
What do you think the child is going to do? Children most times learn from what they see, what they read, and what they hear. So, I mean, it has to be from parents. I mean, where else would I come from?
So it's a case of do as I do, not do as I say.
Exactly. Of course, when you see Asians and you see
you see the Indians,
yes.
you see even forget about like the Chinese or the Indians. Let's even go to Africa.
Or even Indians.
The Ghanaians, the Kenyans, the South Africans, right?
They embrace the language more.
Typically, the children know how to speak the native languages, right?
They embrace the language more.
Right.
They embrace the language. So it just goes back to your mindset.
So let's hop on this mindset a little bit, just for a little bit more. And I get you, because that's almost the explanation that I'm giving. Each time I broach this topic, people are like, well, we were just kind of hoping that if we spoke English to the child, or if we speak, or we're afraid that if we start to speak the native language to the child, it will corrupt the English, speaking skills.
I hear that a lot.
And I almost always say, children are like sponges,
That's right.
Right? You can speak 10 different languages to a child, and the child will absorb all 10
That's right.
in their various buckets or capacities, right? So that to me is like a lame excuse. So what really is the problem? When you say mindset, like what are we talking about?
I'll give you an example. I came to the US 27 years ago.
Okay.
It's actually, I think I told a story like that in the book. And when I came here, I took my culture, Igbo culture, with me. I was very comfortable in my skin. I was proud of who I was, who I am. Okay? So I was never intimidated by, oh, this person speaks different. Of course, Americans sound different because they're Americans. Even a Nigerian or a Ghanaian or a Chinese born in America, so automatically they are half that and half American, right? So when Nigerians, some Nigerians, they come to the US, even people that come to visit, somebody who came from Nigeria maybe 2 days ago to America to visit, and the next minute they're trying to pronounce water. Why can't you just say water? Just say water.
So you're saying the way you pronounce it back home, like why
just
come and
be yourself? Why you want to be or sound American? You're not American. You're Nigerian. You're Ghanaian. You're Cameroonian. You're Asian. You're Indian. Be yourself, speaking your accent. I went to Hawaii during my niece's wedding, and I was on the phone talking to my mom, just talking in Igbo, excited, gisting, laughing. And this white guy apparently was listening. He had no idea what I was saying.
Right.
But apparently I was sounding very musical. So he came, he said, "You have an accent." I said, "I know." He said, "What language is that?" I told him. He said, "Wow." He said, "Wow, you have an accent." I said, "But you have an accent." I said, "Where are you from?" I think he said he was from Florida somewhere.
Okay.
I said, "Well, you have an accent. You're an American. We all have accents."
We all have accents.
See, that's the problem. So because we want to become who we are not or what we are not, just belong, mindset changes. So parents want to, some people, they come here, they change their first name or last names to sound more acceptable or to have a ring to it.
But we don't tend to do that though, we Nigerians. We tend to keep our Nigerian names.
No.
Really?
Not a lot of Nigerians. You can't generalize and say Nigerians we. No. Maybe majority of us actually, keep our names.
Right.
But a lot of people, they change their names. My confirmation name is Andrea. Andrea.
Okay.
That's what's on my middle of my passport. I prefer Nkem DenChukwu. But sometimes people call me Andrea.
But that's your name.
It's my name. But my first name is Nkem.
Okay.
So now, what if I remove Nkem completely and use Andrea or Andrea? And rather than saying DenChukwu, my father's first name is Dennis.
Okay.
Last name, I was born Nkem DenChukwu.
Okay.
But my father, because of his business, and he was dealing with a lot of Americans and other foreigners, he changed his last name to Chukwu to DenChukwu.
Okay.
So Dennis Chukwu combined as DenChukwu. So what if I decide to remove Nkem and remove Chukwu completely?
And then you come
And I answer Andre Dennis. So who am I? I've lost myself. So it boils down to mindset. What are parents doing? Why would you want to become who you're not or what you're not? When you become who you're not or what you're not, what are you? You've lost yourself. You've lost your culture. You've lost your heritage. You were born in the US. Yes, it's a good thing because it has its benefits. But your bloodline doesn't lie. You're still Nigerian. Period. So if parents can really start changing their thought processes, how they think, then that will definitely help with the way we raise our children. My kids, they don't speak my language. I'm ashamed of it. I did my best, but apparently I didn't do, well enough because my husband at the time wasn't speaking the language to the kids and he was speaking English. So my kids can understand, they understand Igbo language. Wow, it's not everything that I say when they're, they understand the language, but they will not respond and communicate in the language. I mean, they can say some bad words, in the language because bad things are usually
the bad
easy.
words first, right?
Exactly. So so it's all about choices and mindset.
Okay, so I hear you when you say, you did your best. Your children don't speak Igbo too well. I mean, they understand, but they're probably not fluent in it because you tried your best to speak to them and your husband always spoke English. And then now I've got two little ones where I'm trying to, the little Igbo, so my husband is Igbo, so I'm trying to learn Igbo. And the little bit that I speak and understand, I speak it to them. It's also funny when you say, it's the mindset and some Nigerians come here and they just want to forget themselves or try to assimilate. I'm struggling with that. And this is what I'm struggling with because, so for example, I have a lot of friends and I know I keep saying I've got a lot of friends, but that's part of my pattern, right? I've got a lot of friends, including myself, who, like I remember when I got married to my husband and we started having conversations about, children, names and all that. I picked out my children's names.
That's good.
Yes. I knew from the get-go, I was like, okay, they're going to have authentic Igbo names. I started to do my research. There was a name that I'd liked from like the get-go, Somtochukwu. I named my child, one of my twins, that name. And I told my husband, like, you have to do everything possible to speak the language to them. So that you're the one who understands it. I'll do my best. And when I hear you say Nigerians try to pull away from their heritage, I'm thinking, no. Okay, some.
You can never be.
Okay, it's not all of. So I'm generalizing again. So maybe that's what I'm trying. Because I'm thinking in my circle of friends, we do the opposite. We try to, pull towards the Nigerian heritage, right? Fine. We may not speak the language too often to the children, but we expose them to the Nigerian culture. We expose them to practices. So now, is it possible to understand our heritage and culture without speaking the language?
Of course.
It's possible.
Of course. I mean, you, say for instance, you like to eat pizza. Do you speak Italian?
No.
Exactly. So you can understand your heritage. Again, I'll go back to using Igbo culture because I'm Igbo.
Right.
So you understand that your parents are this, your great-grandparents, all your generation, maybe go back to 6, 7 generations. You understand the story, their journeys. Then you understand that maybe during marriage ceremonies of the Igbos, this is how they do the Ibanwo. Okay? Then you understand the food, the dressing, the again, like my kids, when we pray, we do our family prayers every night. they sing Igbo songs
All right. Okay.
like fluently.
Okay.
So
So they
you-
know the meanings of what they're
Yes,
singing.
so
and all that.
once in a while I'll be like, if it's a new song, I'm like, I'll sing. Like, if I say, I don't want to sing on the show. If I
Right.
sing on the show, I'm going to mess up the show.
Okay.
But anyway, so like if I bring up a new song,
Mhm.
so when we sing, I translate.
Okay.
I sing, I translate. So I mean, that's how you're going to help kids pick up. But how can you teach what you don't know?
But you just said it's possible to know the heritage
It
and the
is
culture
possible.
if you don't
No,
speak the
no, no,
language.
no. What you don't know, are you willing to know? Change only comes to people who are open to embrace it. So yes, you can learn about your heritage
Mhm.
without really knowing the language. Maybe, and it depends on the age. Like me, I mean, I love French. I love Spanish. I love Italian, but am I open and willing to go learn the language? No.
Okay.
Why? Because I'm lazy to go learn them.
Okay.
But if I really put my heart into maybe picking up on speaking French,
Mhm.
then I'll do it. My mindset will definitely guide me to take that action, to go do it. So Nigerian parents, or rather African parents, they can do the same. So if your kids were born here in the US or born in the UK or something, it doesn't mean they can't understand or relate or appreciate their culture. But it starts from the parents. But another thing is, some kids, even though the parents did not raise them in a certain way, they get older and they learn and they choose to become better than their parents.
They just become more interested in that.
Yes,
right?
because
So the
they see
interest
the
is really
beauty.
picked.
They see the
Right.
beauty in the culture.
Right.
They see the beauty in the heritage.
What I hear you say is, okay, you will stop chastising people too much. Parents are doing their best, right? But we shouldn't forget where we're from. Is that the bottom line message?
I don't think it's about forgetting where you can't forget where you're from unless you have amnesia. Okay?
Okay.
It's like when you do something nice for someone and eventually they turn out and be bad towards you. It's not because they forgot how good you were to them, how kind you were. It's a choice.
Hit up. If the children, as we're afraid that if we don't speak the language to the children, or children are not exposed to the language, they won't become lost, like lost Nigerians. So what do I mean by that? If they were to go to Nigeria today and for some reason, they get lost in the marketplace, let's just say, right? Can they find their way out without speaking the language?
If they're not going to be able to find someone who speaks broken English or English, there's going to be a problem. But hopefully, eventually, they'll find themselves somehow.
Okay.
But language is key to any culture, just like English.
Well, thank you, Nkem, for your time on this topic. It still remains dear to my heart. I think it's still important, for children to at least learn the language, even if it's a few pieces of sentences they can string together. I think it's highly important. The little bit of Igbo that I know, I just speak to the children, and they just pick it up, and it just gladdens
That's
my
amazing.
heart. So I think for me, the key takeaway is, as a Nigerian parent, one who was born abroad, but one who has young children now, I think I would just make it a point of duty to try and teach my children, speak more of the native language to the children. I'm married to an Igbo guy, and so I'm learning Igbo, and the little bit I learn, I just speak to the children in addition to speaking English. And I can see that the children are picking it up nicely. That's what children do. They soak it up. They're sponges. So let's try to do that. In addition to exposing our children to the Nigerian way of life, taking them to Nigeria, showing them, where they're from, let them enjoy the food, which we do fantastically. They enjoy the food, no hands down. I think we should also try to just not forget about this important part. Just imbibe it, just weave it in as well, just speaking more to the children. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next week. And until then, you have a super sparkly week. Stay safe and keep well.
Yeah, sounds good.